Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahanta Paribhasha Kacharya Ashtotar Shatashi Simhad Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitalila Pravishnom Vishnupad Ashtotar Shatashi Simhad Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Nam Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Shad Goswami Ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत राधा शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की ऋषि राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्यामकुंद राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर धाम की गंगामाई की यमुनामाई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की समबद्ध भक्तवृंद की श्री जुगदाम हरिनाम संकीर्तन की बृहत मृदंग की निताय गोपमनंदी श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की श्री श्री गौर निताय की All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So it's a privilege to have this opportunity to serve the Vaishnavas, although completely unqualified myself, to speak something about Govardhan Puja. So I'd like to start by reading one verse from the Bhagavatam, the second canto, 7th chapter, text number 32. Gopal make patihati braja viparvaya deve viparshati pashun kripaya vrikshu dartoch chilindram iva sapta dinani sapta Varsho Mahindram Anaghaikakari Shalilam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. When the cowherd men of Vrindavan, under the instruction of Krishna, stopped offering sacrifice to the heavenly king Indra, the whole tract of land known as Braja was threatened with being washed away by the constant heavy rains for 7 days. Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy upon the inhabitants of Braja, held up the hill known as Govardhan with one hand only, although he was only 7 years old. He did this to protect the animals from the onslaught of water. Purport. Children play with an umbrella generally known as a frog's umbrella. And Lord Krishna, when he was only 7 years old, could snatch the great hill known as Govardhan Parvata at Vrindavan and hold it for 7 days continuously with one hand, just to protect the animals and the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the wrath of Indra, the heavenly king, who had been denied sacrificial offerings by the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. Factually, there is no need of offering sacrifices to the demigods for their services if one is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Sacrifices recommended in Vedic literature for the satisfaction of the demigods are a sort of inducement to the sacrificers to realize the existence of higher authorities. The demigods are engaged by the Lord as controlling deities of material affairs. And according to Bhagavad Gita, when a demigod is worshipped, the process is accepted as the indirect method for worshiping the Supreme Lord. But when the Supreme Lord is worshipped directly, there is no need of worshiping the demigods or offering them sacrifices, as recommended in particular circumstances. Lord Krishna therefore advised the inhabitants of Brajabhumi not to offer any sacrifices to the heavenly king Indra. But Indra, not knowing Lord Krishna in Brajabhumi, was angry at the inhabitants of Brajabhumi and tried to avenge the offense. But competent as the Lord was, he saved the inhabitants and animals of Brajabhumi by his personal energy and proved definitely that anyone directly engaged as a devotee of the Supreme Lord need not satisfy any other demigods, however great, even to the level of Brahma or Shiva. Thus, this incident definitely proved, without a doubt, that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that he was so in all circumstances, as a child on the lap of his mother, as a boy 7 years old, and as an old man of 120 years of age. In either case, he was never on the level of an ordinary man. And even in his advanced age, he appeared as a young boy, 16 years old. These are the particular features of the transcendental body of the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Ganang Jana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyadarati Shva Patantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Dishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It's very interesting in this verse that the Bhagavatam says he gave protection to the animals. Srila Prabhupada explains this in his rendition of Govardhan Puja and Govardhan Lila, where he says that the animals especially did not know where to go. As Srila Prabhupada says, that when there's a forest fire, the animals become very confused, especially the snakes. The other animals may make it out, but the snakes may not. So, and what animals? The cows, who are very dear to Krishna. So, therefore, Krishna established in this Govardhan Puja that the importance of the cows. As Srila Prabhupada would always say, that even when we chant the mantra Godevaya, that Brahmana Hitaya Cha, that first the cow is mentioned before the Brahmins. So the cows are so important. So the Govardhan Puja, this whole Govardhan Lila, is basically divided in 4 parts. First, there's Govardhan Puja, then the lifting of the hill, then the wonder created in the minds of the cowherd men, and finally the prayers of Indra. So Srila Prabhupada, in beginning this, his depiction of this pastime, he mentions that to hear this pastime, one must have faith. And he refers to a statement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shraddha Shabde, that Vishvasya kahe sudhrida nishchay. That faith means one must have the unflinching determination that Krishna Bhakta koile sarma karma krita hoy. That by serving Krishna, everything will be accomplished. And this pastime especially indicates and especially emphasizes how important this is. That we have to have faith. Just like this pastime is a pastime showing the faith of the Brajabasis. Of course, that was many times, many demons attacked. But this time it was not a demon attacking, it was a demigod. And so Krishna, in the beginning of the pastime, he sees Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men preparing this sacrifice. And Krishna says that, my dear father, may I know the meaning of this sacrifice? Who is it for? What is its purpose? How is it authorized? And it's even mentioned by Kavi Karnapur. He says, what guru has authorized this? Which is something very interesting, because to worship Krishna, one must worship Krishna through the guru. So he emphasizes that point. And then Nanda Maharaj just looks at Krishna and smiles. Oh, it's not mentioned in the Bhagavatam, but all of our acharyas comment that Nanda Maharaj was thinking, he won't understand. He's just asking some questions. Let me go on with the puja. But then Krishna immediately interrupts. So what is the purpose? Are you concealing something from me? Saintly persons and yogis, they reveal everything to friends and enemies and even neutral parties. But even if you're not a yogi, I'm your family member, so you must reveal it to me. And so Nanda Maharaj, thinks that Krishna will be satisfied. I'll give him an explanation, he'll be satisfied. And he begins to explain that this is for Indra. Without Indra supplies rains. Anadbhati bhutani parjanyad anasambhava. That grains will come from the rains, as Krishna says. So therefore, we do this sacrifice, and otherwise, if we're neglectful out of material desires, fear, or some other impediment, this will not be auspicious. And then Krishna interjects. Krishna speaks karma mimamsa. Now, if we speak that, we will be defeated. We're wrong. But if Krishna speaks karma mimamsa, it becomes auspicious. Because its purpose is to defeat Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men's argument. If Krishna steals, if we steal, it's very bad. If Krishna steals, it's very wonderful. So Krishna even can take this materialistic philosophy and use it in Krishna's service, in service, and bring everyone to the platform of loving service to Krishna. So he gives his arguments. One of his main arguments is, why worship Krishna? Why worship Indra? He doesn't know what he's doing. He sends rain to the mountains and to the oceans where there's no rain needed. So what is the use of worshiping him? We should worship Govardhan. And then Srila Prabhupada interjects that Nanda Maharaj says that Bhagavatam doesn't mention this specifically, but Srila Prabhupada, but that's all right. We'll worship Govardhan. Let me just finish this puja very quickly. And Krishna, no time. We must worship Govardhan immediately. Indra gives rains everywhere. But we are residents of Govardhan. And therefore we must perform this. And so Nanda Maharaj is convinced, not so much by the arguments, but by Krishna's beauty. He sees Krishna's beautiful smile. And because Krishna is asking, Krishna is a 7-year-old boy. But as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that we just read, Krishna when he's 3 months old, Krishna when he's 7 years old, or Krishna when he's 125 years old, he defeats everyone. Except for Srimati Radharani and her gopis. Of course, they're also defeated in one sense. But Krishna likes to be defeated. Krishna likes to be defeated by Sridham. When it's a matter of making Krishna subordinate to their love, Krishna is defeated by Yashoda, Krishna is defeated by Nanda Maharaj, Krishna is defeated by Sridham, Krishna is defeated by the cows. Krishna is defeated by all of his servants. In the 5th canto, it mentions that Krishna can very easily give liberation, but he doesn't give bhakti so easily because he has to become subordinated to that person. So he only allows bhakti to enter into the hearts of those who really want to worship him. Now, the question is raised by our acharyas, when Indra attacked, why? Why did the residents of Vrindavan have to suffer? So I'll answer that when we come to that point. So then, everybody begins to prepare everything, and Krishna gives instructions that we must make a great feast for the pleasure of Govardhan. And he says all the things that can be prepared, mostly all kinds of milk products, especially in grains and mountains of rice. The offerings were made so great, they were like peaks competing with the peaks of Govardhan. And they looked snow-covered because of the camphor put on top of the peaks. Pools of ghee, pools of yogurt, pools of liquid nectar that looked like another Govardhan with his lakes. And of course, we don't see those lakes except for Shamakund and Radhakund, Manasi Ganga, Nardakund. We see a few little lakes. But at that time, there were huge lakes. So Krishna instructed, and everyone should be, after everything is offered, the remnants should be offered first to the Brahmins, the cows, and even all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, and even the dogs and the dog eaters, but not Indra. He said, specifically mentioned the dogs, because naturally the inhabitants of Vrindavan, being Vaishnavas, will treat every living entity fairly. But he mentioned specifically dogs to insult Indra to the highest degree. We will feed the dogs, but we won't feed you. No. And so, and Indra took this very seriously. So then they began, they fed the cows. Actually, first everyone asked Krishna to feed the cows because they wanted the scent, the lotus scent from his hands to be mixed with the flavor of the grasses. And therefore Krishna fed the first cow. And then he said, first we should worship the cows. But there were millions of cows. So Krishna instructed, take one bull. We worship the cow, but Krishna said, take one bull. Because the bull is the head, he's the father. We'll worship one bull, and that will be effective for worshiping all of the cows and bulls and calves. And they did so, as we just did. And then they began to circumambulate Govardhan. Very blissfully, they went around, the elderly gopis, chanting about the activities of Krishna. The younger gopis following and chanting. They had a special chant, according to Jiva Goswami, a special chant where they said, all glories to Govardhan Hill. And then they remembered each one of Krishna's pastimes of killing demons. And because they were celebrating the victory of Krishna. And now Krishna, and they were begging Krishna, now please be victorious and steal our hearts. No. Chitta Vinod, Chitta Hari, steal our hearts away. So everyone in this huge grand procession went around Govardhan. Such a blissful moment. And as they began, then Krishna looked and he said, just see. And everyone looked, and Krishna expanded himself into the deity of Govardhan. No. That deity is described by Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami. It looked exactly like Krishna. No. But, of course, huge. It's described as Brihat Rupa. No, not Brihat Rupa. I can't remember. Anyway, huge, huge form, unprecedented. Unprecedented form. And everyone was amazed. Who is this giant? And then Krishna said, let us all bow down. This is the deity of Govardhan. He has come to accept our offerings. And then Govardhan, mostly he manifested his head, his shoulders, and his arms. And with his huge arms, as they passed over everyone, this shadow came over and it appeared like nighttime. Their arms were so big. And he scooped, in one scoop, he scooped up, according to Jiva Goswami, 35 million kilos and took it in one bite. That's a pretty big bite. And he kept on. He devoured everything in just a few swipes of his hand, and drank all the rivers and lakes of liquid and ghee. And then he smiled at everyone and said, Aniyor, Aniyor, I want more. And they looked, there was no more. But then he was offered a tulsi leaf, and he was happy. And then he picked up huge bamboos and began to clean his teeth. And he took water from a lake, a whole lake, and washed his mouth. And then he smiled at everyone, and he disappeared. And then, so they finished circumambulating around the hill, and then they had a ceremony. This ceremony, Bratri Dvitya, where a ceremony where the sisters, they give gifts to their brothers so that they can be strong and prosperous. So Krishna's sister was Sunanda, the daughter of Upananda. And she came, and all the gopis ran up to be her assistants, but actually they just wanted to get closer to Krishna. This was their opportunity to get closer to Krishna. So they all ran up as her helpers, but they were simply meditating on Krishna. We rarely get this opportunity. And so, and all of Krishna's friends were saying, this is such a wonderful ceremony, especially Madhumangal, because he was able to eat so much. And everyone wanted, he was a Brahmin, so everyone wanted to offer him something. He said, we should do this every day. Why are we doing this once a year? This is a wonderful ceremony. And so everyone was so blissful. And they all wanted to take rest after this wonderful feast and everything. In the meantime, Indra was fuming with anger. Fuming with anger. How could the residents of Vrindavan, they were just about to worship me, and they were bewildered by this impudent, ordinary child. He knew Krishna, but he could not believe, many people have the name Krishna. Right now, how many people are named Krishna in India? And so it's just some Krishna, some ordinary boy who thinks he's a great scholar. He thinks he's knowledgeable. So he summoned the Samvartika clouds, and he said, go. He was so bewildered by his anger, just like Mahapatma Mahashano, as Krishna says, anger, lust and anger are the greatest enemies that we can have, the most sinful things. And Indra demonstrated this to the highest degree. He was angry, and he was totally bewildered. He said, go and destroy them, and destroy the cows. Imagine, he's a demigod. Destroyed the cows. Nowadays, of course, unfortunately, in many places, and even in Bharatvarsha, that people are not taking seriously enough protecting the cows. What to speak of other places. I've addressed some communities where in places, some of the islands where I go, I always ask the farmers, what do you do with the old cows? Oh, we sell them. No. So I say, sell them to who? Oh, we sell them to someone. No. And then I get down to it. Who did you sell them to? And they admit, oh, but we can't take care of them. No. So anyway, I always do, every time I get a chance to do a TV program on these islands, I always say, you have to protect, you call yourselves Hindus, you have to protect the cows. So, of course, they may say, what about Indra? But anyway, he was going to kill the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So then, the clouds were afraid, but Indra, they were more afraid of Indra because he has one special lightning bolt that can destroy everything. The one he uses to clip the wings of mountains. And so then the clouds came. They were like, it got so dark that it appeared like the devastation. Everyone was bewildered. And then the rain started coming. The rain started coming so hard. The cows were in misery. And they stood over their calves to try to protect them. The bulls were angry, moving their head, but to no avail. And they were getting hit by pieces of ice. Some of those pieces of ice and hail were as big as elephants. Now you can imagine that. One time I was on Harinam Sankirtan in Brazil, and the people started, very envious people started throwing garbage bags full of water at the Harinam from about 20 stories up. They sounded like bombs exploding. Luckily, none of the devotees got hit. Krishna protected us. No. But it was very, and when that happened, I was thinking about this hail, as big as elephants falling on. So everyone was, and the animals were completely bewildered, didn't know where to go. Krishna waited for a while. So why were the residents of Braja subjected to this suffering? I mean, there was some suffering, apparent suffering when the demons came. But Krishna immediately came and killed the demon. But this time, they were allowed to suffer. And Krishna was very, very, because Krishna wanted to increase their prema. Krishna wanted to show what it means to have faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the most difficult circumstance, created by Indra, the king of heaven. And so he let it go on for a while. And the gopis, to show their extreme love, they were meditating, let us become umbrellas and protect Krishna. They weren't even, everybody else was thinking about, what are we going to do? Krishna, 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 save us. But the gopis, again showing the extreme degree of their surrender, they were thinking, let us become umbrellas and protect Krishna. Of course, they couldn't do it because of social norms, but they were ready to put themselves over Krishna, sacrifice themselves for Krishna. And so then Krishna smiled. He ran up to the hill, and first he said, I will take care of this. Actually, it's described that then he found a cave, and just like lightning, ran under the hill and picked it up. Everybody saw the hill rising. First, this devastating rain, and then all of a sudden Govardhan starts rising up into the air. What's happening? But then they saw Krishna, whose moon-like face was emanating beams of transcendental illumination. And everyone could see it. In this darkness, they saw everything became bright by Krishna's effulgence. But they were reluctant to go under. First of all, they were thinking, is Krishna holding up the hill? Or is the hill flying? What's happening? But then Krishna signaled. First he called his mother. He called his mother because he knew that she was in the greatest distress. And then he called his father. And then he called the cows. And then he called the cowherd men, the cowherd women, the cowherd boys. He said, please come under the hill. They were reluctant to do so. They didn't know. They thought, if Krishna is holding this up, at any time it could fall. But when Krishna assured them, come, and Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna manifested walkways and ladders and walkways so that everyone could come down very easily. And he allowed pieces of Govardhan to fall all around to create a barrier. Of course, Garga Samhita says that Sheshanaga, he also wanted to do some service, so he wrapped himself around. No one could see it, but he wrapped himself around the hill. But even though Krishna picked up the hill, nothing fell off the hill. Only these pieces of mud to keep the water from coming in. And then the inhabitants slowly came down, and everybody came under the hill. First of all, it was illuminated by Krishna. And then everywhere under the hill, there were jewels. Now, even though Govardhan was very big, there were millions of cows, millions of inhabitants, and therefore the cavity under the Govardhan began to expand and expand and expand to accommodate everyone. And they were amazed. But as soon as they saw Krishna, everyone simply walked toward Krishna. The cows were grazing, and then they would look at Krishna. And everyone was looking at Krishna. And everyone saw that Krishna was looking at them. Krishna has this ability, that he was looking at every single inhabitant. And every one of the inhabitants of Vrindavan thought, Krishna is looking at me. They couldn't see that Krishna was looking at everyone else. They thought, Krishna is so merciful. Why is he giving me this special mercy? And then the pastime is so richly elaborated by both Jiva Goswami and Kavi Karnapur that such a wonderful pastime went on for so long, 7 days. No one suffered hunger or thirst, or no one was tired, because they were seeing Krishna. And Sanatana Goswami mentions that when you are absorbed in Krishna, even eating and sleeping. Srila Prabhupada said in his last days, he said, I always wanted to give up eating and sleeping, and now Krishna has allowed me to do so. So they were so absorbed in seeing Krishna, they were drinking to quench their thirst. They were drinking the beauty of Krishna to satisfy their hunger. They were so hungry to always be in the association of Krishna. And how could they sleep? Krishna wasn't sleeping. No one could eat. But of course, Madhumanga, being always hungry, he was looking at Mother Yashoda. And Yashoda was very concerned. Krishna's arm is getting tired. And Krishna is getting tired. So she started saying, Krishna, and she looked at Balaram, actually, knowing Balaram is stronger than Krishna. You should hold up the hill. But Balaram, although Krishna never told him, but Balaram understood Krishna wants to do this pastime alone. I can't help him on this one. I simply standing by. And then Mother Yashoda began to think, as time went by, Krishna, you must eat something. And Krishna said, don't worry, Mother. And then she said, Krishna, your arm must be getting tired. And Krishna said, no, actually I'm not holding up the hill. That Govardhan is feeling great ecstasy by my touch. And he's flying in the air. At any time he may fly off. And then she kept thinking, no, this is too strenuous. And then Madhumangal said, Krishna's not doing this. And Govardhan's not flying. I'm doing this by my Brahma Tejas, by my mantras. I'm holding up the hill. Don't worry. And Mother Yashoda said, you're always so proud. And then Nanda Maharaj said to Yashoda, let him be. Everyone should be able to express themselves. He was like the mediator there. And then Yashoda said, why don't all of you help? So the cowherd men put up their sticks. And then the cowherd boy said, be careful. If you tickle Govardhan, he may move and lose his balance. And then someone requested Krishna, please play your flute. And but then some of the cowherd boys said, no, Krishna, better you don't play your flute. Because if you play your flute, Govardhan will begin to melt, and all that melting Govardhan will fill up the hole. So there was a big controversy. Play the flute. But then Krishna began to play the flute. Because Madhu Mangal said, actually, Govardhan is a great devotee. And so he may lose his composure, but immediately he will gain it back. Play the flute. So Krishna played his flute. Everyone was mesmerized, hypnotized by Krishna's flute playing. But then Mother Yashoda said, Krishna, take away your flute. No. Now, I want to feed you something. You have to eat something. And Krishna said, no. But then Madhu Mangal said, yes, Krishna, you should eat. I'm starving. No. And just see, Balaram hasn't been able to eat because you have to eat first. No. So, but still Krishna didn't want to eat anything. Mother Yashoda was in anxiety. So finally she called Subal. Subal, you are so gentle. You are so, whenever you request anything of Krishna, please take this tambula. No, at least Krishna can eat this tambula. You can convince him. So he did. And Krishna ate. So then, of course, there's so many aspects to this pastime. Then the gopis began to speak and say, some of the gopis said, Radhika, be careful, don't look at Krishna. If he sees you, his mind will become agitated and the hill will fall off. And then other gopis said, no, Krishna should see Radhika, and then his heart will be enlivened and he will have great strength to hold up the hill. Everyone was speaking in different ways, and everyone meditating on Krishna. And especially Kavi Karnapur mentions that this pastime was so special because all 5 rasas were being exhibited at the same time in the same place. No. And Krishna was not, sometimes Krishna would have different rasas going on because he would expand himself. But here Krishna is keeping one form and all 5 rasas are being not manifested to the fullest degree. None of them were manifested to the fullest degree, but they were all manifested at the same time. If they became manifested to the fullest degree, the ecstasy would have been so great that no one would be able to contain themselves. So then, Indra sent more clouds, messengers. Has it happened? Are they destroyed? Everyone came back and said no. And then one cloud reported, I don't see any more residents of Vrindavan. I think you've accomplished it. He said, go make sure. And then he looked under the hill and I'm sorry. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is blissful. No, not even a drop of water has fallen on anyone under that hill. Indra realized, I made a big mistake. This is Vishnu. This is the same Vishnu I knew. He has become this Krishna. And so he called off the clouds. And he went back to his home, which seemed like a prison. And he began to think, what will I do? One of our acharyas said he began walking over the hill. The cowherd boys were together with Krishna. He began walking over the hill. By this time, of course, everyone had gone out. And when they went out very, very slowly. very slowly, because they wanted to see Krishna. They were looking at Krishna, but Krishna kept saying, "Go, everyone go." And then they thought, "Oh, he's getting tired." No. So Krishna put down the hill. At one point, the cowherd boy said, "Krishna, you go out, and we'll hold up the hill." So Krishna said, he just let the hill down a little bit, and so they said, we'll go out. And then Krishna put down the hill, came out. He was wandering around the hill. Indra, some of the cowherd boys saw Indra, and they said, "Oh, there's a great personality. Krishna, you should come and see him, shining, refulgent." Krishna, don't pay attention to him. No. And then Krishna satisfied everyone. They massaged his arms and everything, and even the cowherd boys cracked his knuckles, so get him back in shape. And then Krishna went off alone, because he wanted to receive, even though Indra had made such a big mistake, Krishna shows us we should always be respectful. And so he went off to receive the prayers of Indra. Indra got chastised by Brihaspati. He told him to go to Brahma. Brahma told him, "Krishna will be very angry. You should go to Surabhi." And Surabhi, he went to a heavenly Surabhi. And Brahma told Surabhi, "You speak to Krishna first, then Indra." And then Indra came and spoke. So anyway, unfortunately our time is up. I had a few more things I wanted to say, but I don't think, is there time for any questions? Or is, yeah? Okay. So, if anyone has a question or comment. Panchagoda Prabhu. Okay. So the question is, sometimes we hear different stories or different versions. So how do we, actually Jiva Goswami address this, especially about the appearance of Govardhan, because one time Govardhan appears by being brought by Hanuman, another time by Pulastya Muni. No. So he says, different kalpas. No. These, whatever difference there may be, it all happened in different kalpas. That's how Jiva Goswami. One professor told me one time, he said, "You go to your Vaishnavas, whenever there's a problem, you just say different kalpas." No. So, anyway. So, I will conclude. The gopis prayed to Krishna that, prayed to Govardhan, that you are the most wonderful hill. I'm not going to recite the verse because of time constraint. But they said, you're feeling so much happiness by the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. You are feeling so much, you become so blissful that all these trees and creepers we see on you are your hairs standing on end by the touch of Rama and Krishna's lotus feet. You create beautiful caves which have beds so that Krishna and Balaram can sleep, and all kinds of wonderful plants and vegetables and fruits are available. Your service, unfortunately, we are abala. We are very weak women. We're not able to do this. So we worship you, Sri Govardhan. So thank you all very much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna. Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Giridhari ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki. Hare Krishna.